Freddy Fazbear, the one who started it all even though he has never been alone. The titular showrunner of the franchise who has been present in every game, or at least had a variation or two in each one. Who has played the role of bloodthirsty antagonist, tragic victim, and lovable hero across the many games that make up the Fnaf series. Today we are going through the story of Freddy Fazbear. Freddy's first appearance was in the original Five Nights at Freddy's, shockingly enough, but instead of being the first threat you face, as you might expect, Freddy is technically the last of his band to become a major threat, as he doesn't start wandering until Night 3, during which he will slowly move through the rooms before arriving at your door, and if you don't block him immediately, he'll be on you like your free pizza. You can hear him either laughing or crying as he moves around the pizzeria. If Freddy gets you, it's lights out. But if the lights go out, something peculiar happens. Freddy will stand in the doorway, flash the lights in his eyes, and chime out the Toreador march through a music box. It is unclear how long this will last. Sometimes he goes through the whole song and you might barely skirt to morning. Sometimes you'll get a jump scare almost immediately. It's randomized. So Freddy's story is spilled out in newspaper clippings you can find hung in the pizzeria hallway. 5 children were lured away by someone in a mascot suit and went missing. Suspiciously, along this time, the animatronics began to reek and leak bodily fluids. The children were never found, but their souls remain, animating the suits they were once hidden inside of. This is pretty much the full story of Freddy in FNAF 1, but there is actually a second Freddy hidden in the game, this being the Easter egg character known as Golden Freddy. Rarely you may see a Golden Freddy poster out in the hallway, and you might lower your cameras to see that the slumped suit is now sitting in the corner of your room. If you don't put the cameras up quickly, you're done for. There's a lot of lore surrounding Golden Freddy, enough to get a video of its own, so I will not be discussing them now, mostly because, frankly, I don't want to. This bear isn't just a secret character puppeteering things behind the scene, it's a ball of loose threads, all of which point to nowhere good, and I expect that anything I say on the bear will be nothing but loose speculation. Let's instead move on to FNAF 2, where we get introduced to the 2 new, quotations on the new, versions of Freddy. Golden Freddy is here as well, but he's mostly been demoted to a head. Let's first look at the brand new top-of-the-line animatronic known as Toy Freddy. Toy Freddy, like the entire toy line, are supposedly updated animatronics with built-in facial recognition software and a connection to a criminal database, so that they can identify possible threats. Alas, this doesn't stem the rampant death count at Freddy's. Toy Freddy himself is a peculiar specimen. A rounded plastic-looking body, a square jaw, a squat face. He doesn't resemble Freddy himself, but more so a cousin of the bear, though that is likely just a designing flaw in-universe. In FNAF 2, Toy Freddy has pretty much zero character, no lines, no real standout gimmicks, and competing with, 10 other animatronics, including the original Freddy, Toy Freddy didn't have a chance to really stand out, not even being as much of a major design change from the original as his bandmates. He's just off-kilter Freddy. Toy Freddy shows up on night 1, he walks around, then comes to the office, and you have to put on a mask to trick him into leaving. That's pretty much it. While he doesn't seem too impressive, it might have been how bland Toy Freddy was that led to some interesting developments with him later on. I'll get into it later, but the whole rigmarole perhaps requires an even deeper dive at a later time. Let's put him on the back burner for now and move on to the old Freddy who he was replacing. This being Withered Freddy. As the name implies, Withered Freddy is a decayed Freddy Fazbear shoved into the back of the pizzeria and left to mold and molder. Though unlike his bandmates, Withered Freddy isn't looking too shabby. That hasn't done much to appease his aggression, however. Withered Freddy all but replaces Toy Freddy on the later nights, but his gimmicks are much the same. Enter office, get warded off by the mask. There is also an Easter egg known as Shadow Freddy who sometimes can be seen on the screen. Shadow Freddy, who resembles a purple Withered Freddy, doesn't seem too impressive, though this is one of those mysterious lore-related characters who became a staple of the games, at least for a little while. Though as of FNAF 2, there wasn't much to say about him or his counterpart, Shadow Bonnie. That mostly wraps up FNAF 2, on to FNAF 3. This is the first game where Freddy really takes a backseat, as in this game, the big bad villain Springtrap, a Bonnie variant, is revealed as the main threat. Freddy still makes an appearance as Phantom Freddy, however. The Phantom line being, well, burned hallucinations of animatronic characters who jump scare but don't kill. Phantom Freddy is the same way. Avoid looking at him or you're going to be looking at a hazy screen, which might leave you open for Springtrap to swoosh on in. But he's not the only Freddy here. Shadow Freddy also reappears. Admittedly, I never noticed because he looks so much like Phantom Freddy, but this is apparently him. He doesn't have a big role in the gameplay, but in the minigames, Phantom Freddy has a noticeable one. Now, there's a minigame that shows a purple Freddy luring the animatronics to the Purple Man, the murderer of the children, who is currently Springtrap. Now, it is unclear if this is really Shadow Freddy, or if it's just purple to signify that the Purple Man is wearing the Freddy suit. Likely it is Shadow Freddy, but if that's the case, we don't know why he's doing this. It is more than likely that he is coaxing them to go after the Purple Man, like the puppet does in FNAF 2. The answers to what Shadow Freddy is have never really been given. There's hints and theories, but also changing solutions and goalposts. As of right now, he is an enigma. Moving on to FNAF 4, we have a brand new slew of Freddys waiting. So, the premise of FNAF 4 is that we witness the tragedy of a constantly crying child who suffers from a terrible accident at Freddy's, while at night having to face the nightmarish versions of the Freddy gang. During one of the daytime cutscenes, we see a bully wearing a Freddy mask, hanging out with the other masked teens, including the crying child's older brother. But during the night sections, while trapped in the lonely bedroom, we confront the nightmarish forms of Freddy and his friends. Nightmare Freddy is nothing to scoff at, with a mouth full of razor-sharp teeth and claws as sharp as cheese knives. And he doesn't come alone. Nightmare Freddy is accompanied by his brood of little Freddles, a cluster of tiny bears with equally jagged teeth. Though they're not here to bite, they instead group up on your bed. You can scare them off with the light, but if you don't and they all get in, Nightmare Freddy will follow suit and it's game over. While this mechanic may seem intimidating, it's pretty easy just to regularly check the bed and keep Freddy out. So, spooky as he looks, Nightmare Freddy isn't too hard to handle, and isn't nearly as intimidating as the much bigger threat waiting later in the game. It's time to discuss Fredbear. Fredbear, for all intents and purposes, was the original Freddy Fazbear, the star of Fredbear's family diner, along with a Bonnie companion who later became none other than Springtrap. Fredbear was a friendly face welcoming families in for a swell time, until he bit off too much for him to chew. One day, a group of familiar bullies got a little too rowdy and decided to play a cruel prank and shove the crying child's head into Fredbear's gaping mouth. It's unclear what happened, if it was a spring lock failure or something more devious, but Fredbear's mouth clamped closed and crushed the crying child's head in its maw. It's not confirmed, but it was very likely that it was this event that led to the major rebranding into Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, leaving Fredbear behind for a slightly different styled and named bear. Indeed, with how many Freddys opened after this moment, one can assume that the ruse likely worked. But like the nightmares before it, Fredbear returns in a much more menacing form. Nightmare Fredbear. Bigger than the nightmares, more teeth in his mouth and his belly, bloodshot beady eyes above a gaping maw. A perfect encapsulation of the horror that was that accident at Fredbear's. On night 5, Nightmare Fredbear is the sole animatronic who replaces all the other animatronics. He is aggressive, ruthless, one misplaced second and your run is over. You can hear his laughter too as he moves about. And yet somehow, Nightmare Fredbear is not the greatest threat you encounter, because in Nightmare mode, there is hidden one last Freddy, a pitch black and hazy looking bear that resembles Nightmare Fredbear, known simply as, well, Nightmare. Nightmare appears some ways into the night where he replaces the animatronics and plays as a more difficult version of Fredbear. One neat thing to note about Nightmare is his ghostly design. When you brighten up images of Nightmare, you can see straight through him, and see an endoskeleton underneath. Whether this suggests he is not solely a nightmare, but a hallucination or illusion, is unclear. But this does mark the end of the Freddys of Five Nights at Freddy's 4. The next FNAF game and appearance of Freddy would be in FNAF World. Now, the FNAF World sections sometimes bog the video down a little, so I'm going to keep this brief. There are 10 playable Freddys in FNAF World. Freddy, Toy Freddy, Golden Freddy, Fredbear, Withered Freddy, Phantom Freddy, Shadow Freddy, Nightmare Freddy, Nightmare Fredbear, and Nightmare. Freddy and Toy Freddy are characters you will start with, and they are the ones with the weakest moveset, with their movesets becoming stronger the further down the line you go. Freddy doesn't seem to have a specializing grouping like how Chica is a healer and the Bonnie is a support. Though characters like Phantom Freddy share moves with others in their line, i.e. the Phantom line holds toxic moves, so he has Sludge. Shadow Freddy has 3 insta-kill moves with different rates. Unscrew has a 30% chance to kill, Escape Key can attack multiple enemies but has a lower hit chance, one that it didn't even clarify what the number was, and Water Hose kills all enemies under 30% health. This means that Shadow Freddy has the ability to be a rather dangerous character on your team if your luck is good. Now, Freddy himself doesn't have a significant role in the game, but Fredbear does, playing both as your guide and instructor. Now, there's a whole secret route you can go with helping Fredbear find clocks and put things into place, but this is more a Golden Freddy event than a Freddy one, so I'll keep it light on the lore keeper stuff. Golden Freddy is one of those characters that has so many theories around them that no matter what I say, there's a bullet in every chamber. The one thing that I must bring up is that if you talk to Fredbear, with Fredbear as the leader of your group, the two will glitch out and the universe will collapse in an unexpected bad ending. There's also an oversized wind-up bear boss named Bubba who resembles Freddy Fazbear, but that's pretty much the full extent of his role in this game. Those are all the Freddys. Sister Location is where Freddy again took a backseat to another character, but in return, Freddy got an unexpected addition to his roster. Freddy, the silent leader of the band, was given a new variant in the loud and sadistic side act known as Funtime Freddy. Funtime Freddy is very much the opposite of the Freddy that we have known up to this point. Unlike the sympathetic but threatening Freddy, a victim of the Purple Man, Funtime Freddy is the creation of the Purple Man, a sinister white and purple plated bear who takes a thrill out of taunting his victims, drawing out his fun with them. Unlike Freddy, built to perform for children, Funtime Freddy's performance capabilities are just an act for his main directive, to kidnap and murder children. His blueprints alone show what he is truly made of. He is, by design, a monster. I've done a video on Funtime Freddy, so I won't go too deeply into him, but I will say that Funtime Freddy is a unique case in how he is the first Freddy with a true distinct personality, largely because Sister Location invited in voice acting, allowing the animatronics to speak for themselves.
I know you're over there somewhere. Ready or not, here I come!
Because of this, Freddy and Funtime Freddy might be the same character as in both being Freddys, but they are widely distinct characters with a completely different feeling surrounding them. While Sister Location was the first game in ages with only one new Freddy edition, Pizzeria Simulator returned to Freddy's roots of adding numerous bears of various importance and success, largely due to the game's focus on running a pizzeria, along with managing a secret hidden underneath it. Starting small and with the smallest bear of them all, we have Helpy. Helpy is a virtual helper and perhaps partially representation of the player themselves, resembling a small cartoonish version of Funtime Freddy, or at least carrying his color scheme. Helpy is less than threatening. The most off-putting thing he does is snap his pelvis when diving into and missing the ball pit. The little guy appears as a mascot after this point, but at this time he's limited to a dancing icon on a screen and a little action figure sitting atop the console screen. In the vein of proper Freddy, however, we have Rockstar Freddy. Rockstar Freddy is a purchasable animatronic for the Pizzeria section of the game. One of the upper-middle animatronics, Rockstar Freddy has high entertainment and low liability. Unfortunately, this is pretty much as far as he goes in this game since he just dances on stage and doesn't do anything else. For being the characters on the title screen, the Rockstar animatronics were barely used in this game, likely only being on said screen because they were technically the newest versions of the Freddy band. But they aren't the only band featured in the game. At a discount price, you can get the mediocre melodies, which are suggested to be an obscure Fazbear Entertainment characters, but look a lot more like general knockoffs, one of which being Nedd Bear, perhaps the only bear used less than Rockstar Freddy, the only member of the discounted band to have a liability risk. It is sort of a stretch to count Nedd Bear as a Freddy. but we could perhaps count him as a lesser-known cousin. He's not the Freddy Fazbear we want, but he is the one we've got at home. Now let's move out of the pizzeria and to the dirty depths underneath, to the real threat of Pizzeria Simulator. There are 4 animatronics who hunt you in the night. Well, at least they do once they're salvaged and introduced into the business. 2 of these are bears. That would be like a 50% Freddy ratio this time. Though even though one is named a Freddy and the other resembles Rockstar Freddy, neither of these bears are the traditional classic Freddy you might be expecting. Molten Freddy is a degradation of Funtime Freddy into a pile of amalgamized wires. Legless, technically eyeless, a crawling broken beast constantly searching for something. Considering those secret directives in Funtime Freddy and his band's blueprints, I think we can guess what they want. Molten Freddy starts hunting on night 2. The animatronics in Pizzeria Simulator wander around and get misled by lures through the maze, while you're listening to try to detect where they are. Molten Freddy plays no differently, really. Neither does Lefty, the bear that resembles Rockstar Freddy, but what he is much different from the average Freddy. He is, in fact, the puppet, or that is, a bear-shaped trap created to contain the puppet and released to wander the maze. Like I said a moment ago, Lefty is virtually a recolored Rockstar Freddy, with the lone change detail being his blinded left eye, like the blackened eye of a vulture it is. Both of these Freddys, Rockstar Freddy and possibly Nedd Bear, burn in the fire at the end of the game. Due to Helpy's dubious nature and rebirth as a rebrand later, we can technically say he survived. The next game in the line is Ultimate Custom Night, and dear lord, this will be a long one. Because Ultimate Custom Night is sort of a compilation collection of many of the animatronics throughout the games leading to this point, which leads us to a total of 11 bears to mention, many of them getting something they hadn't had before, voice acting. First off is Freddy. He doesn't get voice acting. Nice to see that the titular character is still getting so much love. Freddy sneaks up on the left door and you have to monitor him and shut the door in his face to keep him out. He speeds up if it's hot, but otherwise he's pretty basic. Toy Freddy, in sharp contrast, is strangely complicated considering his total lack of a presence in FNAF 2. So somewhere between his first appearance and his second, a tonal shift was made with Toy Freddy, and by the time Ultimate Custom Night came around, he was reintroduced as a somewhat meme-ish character. He sits in a back room playing Five Nights at Mr. Hugs, a parody of FNAF, except with Mr. Hugs the vacuum cleaner. But he isn't actually playing, you have to click on the camera and play for him. If he dies in the game, you die for real, and he gets really petty about it. And yes, Toy Freddy has a voice now. Take a listen.
It's not my fault. I have these fat plastic fingers and can't press the buttons. That game was totally rigged. If I get jump scared, you get jump scared.
As expected, it reflects both his new salty gamer personality and his somewhat dopey design. We'll get back to Toy Freddy later because this isn't the end of the road for him. Next we have Golden Freddy, who appears with similar mechanics and no new voice lines. He appears in the office and you have to flip up the cameras quickly and not stare at him too long to avoid a jump scare. But he is in fact not the only Golden Bear in this game. If Golden Freddy is the only animatronic on the field and you manage to get a death coin and use it, and hopefully have the animatronic spawning Dee Dee blocked from summoning anyone else, you will be confronted by none other than Fredbear. Fredbear greatly resembles a recolored Freddy, slightly edited to look a little more like Golden Freddy. His audio is garbled, but apparently some people think they hear certain phrases. I'm going to let you listen to the lines first without knowledge of the assumed translation, and then tell you what the assumed translation means. That was apparently, let's find a suit that's right for you. Here's the next one. That was apparently, be sure to come back soon. Here is the last one. That was apparently, there's more fantasy and fun where I came from. I'm not sure if these lines are accurate because I didn't exactly hear them myself. Now, like all Golden Freddy adjacent bears, I could go swimming in the red lake of lore and salt, but I will be avoiding that for today and moving on to something more important. Phantom Freddy. Alas, this is a joke, because Phantom Freddy is not much to write home about. He slowly appears in the office and you have to shine a light on him to get him to leave before he gets tangible enough to attack. He has no new voice lines. Nightmare Freddy is nearly Phantom Freddy's counterpart, as he virtually has the same mechanics, just in a more character-oriented way. His frettles appear in the office, and you have to shine the light on them before they can build up to keep him from coming in. However, unlike Phantom Freddy and even Classic Freddy, Nightmare Freddy has voice lines.
What a gift to relish, a victim that can't perish. No light can save you now. I am remade, but not by you, by the one you should not have killed.
I think this is a little self-explanatory, but let me explain anyways. So, the story of Ultimate Custom Night is that this is a purgatory for Afton, or perhaps Michael Afton, who has been mistaken for Afton again. It is likely Afton, but with how FNAF tends to do its sudden twist characters and returns, I want to leave the door open, because you never know. Anywho, this is all puppeteered by the one you should not have killed, an unconfirmed identity child character who is guiding the animatronics to attack. While some of the characters seem to give inklings of their own memories and sentience in their wording, some of them are directly spoken through, or at least talk about being created by the one you shouldn't have killed. So bingo, here's Nightmare Freddy. Nightmare Fredbear and Nightmare are a true counterpart duo this time around. Nightmare Fredbear creeps up on the left door, Nightmare on the right, and they can only be seen when they arrive at the door because they aren't visible on camera, or at least you can see their eyes. Just shut the door on them. Fredbear and Nightmare both have new voice lines. Let's start with Fredbear's.
This time, there is more than an illusion to fear. Let me put you back together, then take you apart all over again. We know who our friends are, and you are not one of them.
And now Nightmare's.
You will not be spared. You will not be saved. I am your wickedness, made of flesh. I am here to claim what is left of you.
While you may assume the two are very similar as they are both aggressive, there's a clear distinction between the two. Nightmare is much more sinister and threatening, while Fredbear's lines suggest an amount of defensiveness and vulnerability. Nightmare Fredbear reads as a former victim recognizing the one who likely killed him, his double-toned voice backing up the idea of him being possessed, in contrast to the guttural and monstrous voice of Nightmare, who, like the Night Marionette and some others, seems to be more a creation for punishment. Though this is just reading off of a few short lines. Helpy returns again, no voice lines, and his spiel is that you have to boop him before he blows his air horn. Helpy doesn't do damage, but he raises the noise meter, which can irritate the animatronics who are sensitive to it. Rockstar Freddy returns again, and, would you believe it, not only does he have an exclusive gimmick that no other character has, but he has been given a voice. Though he uses it for pure evil.
Please deposit 5 coins. Please deposit 5 coins. Please deposit 5 coins.
Please deposit 5 coins.
Yes, Rockstar Freddy has gotten into the panhandling business. That's his gimmick. Rockstar Freddy stands in your office until he wakes up, badgers you for money, gets increasingly more demanding when you don't pay up, and then jump scares you. You have to collect coins to pay him off. However, if you don't feel like doing this and you don't have any heat-irritated threats nearby, you can hike up the heater, which causes Rockstar Freddy to short-circuit and shut down. No coins required.
You are attempting to trick Freddy. You are attempting to...
Freddy doesn't like this.
Molten Freddy returns again and has the same gimmick as Ennard, who also returns. Both of them travel through the vents, with the only distinction between them really being that Molten Freddy signals his arrival at the opening with an obnoxious laugh, while Ennard simply squeaks, and Springtrap stares through with a dead look in his eyes. Molten Freddy doesn't have any new Ultimate Custom Night lines. He just laughs. So instead, here are some of his lines from Pizzeria Simulator that I forgot to add in earlier.
Thanks for letting me join the party. I'll try not to disappoint. Knock, knock! I'm here! Oh, what a pleasant surprise!
Almost forgot. Nedd Bear returns with the rest of the mediocre melodies. Like them, he travels through the ductwork. He can be warded off by the heater or fooled by an audio lure, with a 50-50 success rate. Nedd Bear also has a few lines.
I was just waiting for you to drop your guard. Stranger danger, don't you hate getting killed by obscure secondary characters?
Utterly charming. Lefty is the last bear on the chopping block. He hangs out at the closet in the back and gets riled up by sound or heat. The only way to calm him down is to use the global music box. Unlike in Pizzeria Simulator, where Lefty only shushed, here he has a few lines.
Shh. I've been looking for you, and now I will never let you go.
With all the bears done, let's move on to the exclusive cutscenes which both feature Freddy. Freddy is the main star of The Bear of Revenge, a samurai versus pirate parody series that shows Freddy's efforts to regain his honor by spiting Foxy of the Fox Clan. Unfortunately for him, Foxy is always one step ahead of him, and because of such, Freddy is constantly stuck doing silly things like his laundry, hanging up Christmas lights, sitting with a giant frog, just ridiculous stuff like that. Now, one could probably read a dozen ways into what this cutscene means, with Freddy and Foxy being a stand-in for Michael and William, or Henry and William, or some other unknown third party in William. But there's not enough confirmation on any side to make for a for sure example of who Freddy's supposed to be. Freddy also appears in Chica's high school days as one of her paramours who she obsesses over and either kills or maims and locks up in her basement. Freddy is in fact the second after Foxy, but there's nothing else exclusively to say about him, save that Toy Chica solely fixates on him because of his top hat of all things. There is also a cutscene of Golden Freddy slinking into the darkness if you get to the end of Ultimate Custom Night. Into the void, if you would. Anyways, on to Help Wanted. Help Wanted is a compilation of the first 3 games, and levels that resemble other moments throughout the series. Initially introduced as a VR game, it was later released in flat-screen mode so that you could play it without feeling like you were on a tilt-a-whirl. There's plenty of Freddy throughout the game. First off, all the Freddys in the first 3 games return in more detail than ever, such as Toy Freddy's dumpy walk cycle and Freddy's up-close and personal jump scare. Our first example of a voice from Freddy also comes from this game, in the form of the Freddy Fazbear's pizza theme. Throughout the scene, Freddy introduces himself and his bandmates. Here's a little sample.
Well, let's meet the band. My name is Freddy, I'm the singer in the band. Got a hat and a big bow tie. Oh, I'm a big brown bear, but don't be scared. I'm a real fun-loving guy.
Freddy kind of just comes off as the humble leader, the straight man perhaps, a staple for any animatronic band. Another big level that involves classic Freddy is his repair section. Remember how Freddy used to chime in the original game when he got you cornered in the office? Well, now we get to see how his music box mechanism works as we clear out shoes, hats, and other suspicious materials from inside of him. One wrong move and you're poking the bear, so when you drop the music box part and break it, you have to very quickly replace it before Freddy breaks you. In one of the Fnaf 4 themed levels, we see the return of the hideous Nightmare Fredbear. Now, while many of these Night Terrors levels are a far cry from the original Fnaf 4, such as having to hide from Circus Baby and having to ward off Nightmarian's wiggly tickle fingers, Nightmare Fredbear functions a whole lot like the traditional Fnaf 4 level. He comes down the hallways, and you have to wait for the right moment to close the door to ward him off. He can also get himself into the closet and on the bed, close the closet door, shine a light on the bed. It's relatively simple. But Nightmare Fredbear is persistent. The creepiest part here is that Nightmare Fredbear doesn't just jump scare you if he gets in. He actually walks into the bedroom, follows you to wherever you are, and then jump scares you, giving us a moment to admire his sheer size and nastiness. One last good showing from the bear. Fredbear isn't the only one who returns either. In an earlier Night Terrors level, we are confronted by Funtime Freddy, who stands down the hallways outside of the bedroom and sends down Bon Bon to get us while Bonette, the other Bonnie hand puppet, distracts us from inside the room. Not too much to say here, but another showing of the bear. Helpy also returns, but not in a specific level, and instead both as a mascot on the level select screens, often seen in little examples of the level, and as a piece of earnable merch from the prize counter. He can be seen in secret Easter eggs too, such as peeking around the screen and hiding in the darkness behind the office. The final big bear, and technically the only new Freddy of the group, is Fredbear, a large Freddy bear inspired by Frankenstein's monster, the titular character in the Cursed Fredbear expansion. Fredbear can be seen wandering around and encountered in a couple of levels. In Danger Keep Out, Fredbear sort of replaces Freddy. He starts out on a stage and creeps down the hallway where you must flash him with the light to slow him down, because once he reaches the door, he's getting in. It won't stop him. The more important level involving Fredbear is the one where you bring him to life. Fredbear is strapped to a chair and you must complete the science experiment correctly or he will break free and attack you. Fun fact, but in the code it does list Fredbear's name as Franken-Freddy, so that could have maybe been his unfinalized name before they switched it to Fredbear. There are plenty more Freddy cameos throughout the game, from his face being on the masks the plush babies wear to him being in the trick-or-treat level. There's a lot of Freddy, but we still got a ways to go before we're all caught up, so let's move on from Help Wanted into Fnaf AR's Special Delivery. Fnaf AR, or Five Nights at Freddy's Special Delivery, was a mobile game where you had to fight off animatronics that came to your home. Naturally, Freddy was in the initial group of animatronics added to the game, and this time he was featured with a brand new voice. If you don't count the Freddy theme song, then this is the first time Freddy speaks in the series.
I bet you didn't expect me to show up, did you now? It looks like someone wasn't ready for Freddy to come to the party. What's that you say? You didn't invite me. Too bad. Now, all that fear there isn't helping either of us. I've planned something special just for you.
Freddy's personality is a little on the flat side. He's the one animatronic character who comes off the most as animatronic character, but the voice works, so there's that. Other than that, there's not much to say about Freddy. He's one of the easier animatronics to defeat, and likely one of the ones you will see the most. Freddy has two skins, Shamrock Freddy and Fireworks Freddy. However, there is also a skin that is technically not a skin. Freddy Frostbear, one of the first alternate characters, is a Freddy, but is actually his own animatronic with his own CPU and even his own skin, Black Ice Freddy. It's a weird conundrum, admittedly. While there were some in-game emails sent by Freddy Frostbear, he doesn't have any voice lines. Here are the emails he sent. On my way. I'm so fun. I'm cool enough to be your new best friend. Brr, sure is cold, wouldn't you say? Hope your place is nice and warm. I'm almost there. I'm almost here. Won't you let me come in out of the cold? The third Freddy animatronic to join the game is Toy Freddy. Like the rest of the toy line, Toy Freddy was introduced to the game later and worked with the added mask mechanic, where in his case, you had to put up the mask and stare Toy Freddy down when he haywires. He also had a mechanic to drain your battery, which you could stop by putting up the mask, but could also be rather annoying with how valuable that battery power is. Toy Freddy had quite a few new lines as well.
Did I overhear that someone needs a friend? I've got a special present just for you. Would you like to hear one of my copyrighted jingles? You seem nervous. Would you like me to be your friend?
In this game, he leans further away from the salty gamer, meme-ish persona introduced in Ultimate Custom Night, and instead seems like a goofy and somewhat dopey mascot peddling his brand and performing his duty to be your friend. In one of the lines, he even seems a little worried about the player's well-being.
Hello? Hello? Why won't you say something?
While this isn't too detached from Ultimate Custom Night's version of him, it's largely less tongue-in-cheek. Toy Freddy doesn't feel like nearly as much of a joke character, which I think is a good thing. As comical as Ultimate Custom Night's version was, having that be the canonical personality and shtick would have been maybe a little too goofy. Like when you hear an internet meme pop up in FNAF and it breaks all immersion, and it kind of feels like a hello fellow kids moment. Toy Freddy actually has more skins than the original classic Freddy does. He has VR Toy Freddy, he has Aeronaut Toy Freddy, and he also has Woodland Toy Freddy. All of these are pretty well-made skins. It's just a little strange that he got more than the original Freddy did. From toying around to having a fun time, Funtime Freddy was the next bear in line. One who was hinted and advertised from the beginning, but didn't show up for quite a long time. Funtime Freddy's gimmick is that once you take him out, Bon Bon himself becomes a problem on his own, and you have to take him out too, or risk Funtime Freddy getting back up. Though that sounds difficult, Funtime Freddy himself only plays like a slightly harder Freddy. It just makes the encounter a bit longer. So if you have Fnaf AR constantly crashing on your phone, you might not be able to handle this double act. Here's a few new lines.
Well, hello again! Bon, let's not keep our friend waiting! Over here! Scream all you want, no one will hear you! Are you having fun yet? I know that I am! Don't worry, I'll visit you in your dreams tonight!
Golden Freddy was also introduced into FNAF AR during a special community event and is arguably one of the hardest characters to go up against in the game. And I would be the one to argue that. Golden Freddy's shtick is that he goes through 3 of 5 other characters' movements, moving from one to the other to the next, and then being defeated. He can either mimic Freddy, Toy Freddy, Mangle, Ballora, or Springtrap, and you can see where the difficulty comes in, especially when you have to quickly identify what phase he's going into fast enough that he doesn't get you. Golden Freddy has no lines, but he did get one skin, Great Escape Golden Freddy. Released alongside the Dark Circus DLC, Great Escape Golden Freddy was actually the last skin released before the update stopped, and unfortunately was stuck behind a price tag as he is not encounterable unless you beat this DLC. Now the last Freddy adjacent bear character in FNAF AR is Lefty, though in comes with the caveat. Yes, Lefty appears in FNAF AR. That is, in its files. Lefty was a completed animatronic who was not released before the game went on hiatus. The animations were all finished and the voice actress said all the lines were done, but Lefty still didn't make it in even though he too was hinted like Funtime Freddy. It's a conundrum. But that is the end of FNAF AR for the moment. The next game being released was Freddy in Space 2. Now, Freddy in Space was a minigame in the Halloween update of FNAF World where you played Freddy going through a short platforming section and then fighting Scott Cawthon's head in a jar. It's pretty much just a short parody game. Freddy in Space 2 is a little beefier. Released to tide over for Security Breach and to raise money for charity, it's too a platformer game, sort of Metroid-inspired in how you can unlock abilities, though through additional characters, not through weapons, or upgrades. The premise is that Freddy's doing whatever when his son reveals that he wandered outside the safety of the space base and was locked out by Lol's Hacks, a computer screen with legs who's out to get Freddy, and indeed has already trapped all of his friends. At the urging of Golden Freddy, Freddy sets out to rescue his friends and save the day. Freddy himself is the sort of well-balanced default character. He's not the fastest or the strongest and can't jump the highest, but he doesn't suffer from the gameplay catches those who have those benefits do. The more important aspect is the relationship between Freddy and his son. As a matter of fact, this is the first time Freddy has even been suggested to have a son. This precocious cub decided to sneak out and play, and then was locked out of the base by Lol's Hacks. It doesn't have much time. Specifically, 30 minutes. And I am not joking, you have 30 minutes to complete Freddy in Space 2 to get the good ending where Freddy manages to rescue his son. This is a feasible but frustratingly difficult challenge, as it means having to unlock characters and upgrade them. Unless you want to just play as Freddy and upgrade him, it's a tight time crunch. But in the end, Freddy rescues his son, his crew, and the day is saved. Another game made to tide over the fans was Security Breach's Fury's Rage, a side-scroller beat-em-up featuring the characters from Security Breach. Decked out in the raddest digs with a gnarly rat tail, or bear tail, Freddy scours the city taking out bad guys left and right. And that's literally left and right because that's where the enemies come from. Freddy has the highest stamina and has good power and luck, with his only lacking trait being his special. Here are a few of his lines.
Oh, cruising for a bruising. Let's see if they're ready for Freddy. Pizza Cyclone! Ugh, I'll take that to go.
The game's story really is just Freddy and co protecting the city, and it ends on a sort of non-ending, so there's nothing really too deeply to get into. Before the release of Security Breach, a series of teasers featuring Freddy and Friends released online. Freddy and Friends on Tour was basically a parody of Saturday morning cartoons. Hanna-Barbera made one specifically. Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica would travel around while being chased by Foxy, and then would end each episode by singing a song. Notably, the singing voice of Freddy in this cartoon is Kellen Goff, who has done a few voices throughout the series, including Funtime Freddy. And with the arrival of Security Breach, Kellen Goff was cast once more to play the newest Freddy in the series, Glamrock Freddy. Like Funtime Freddy, Glamrock Freddy was a huge step in a new direction when it came to the character type. Glamrock Freddy is a new high-tech model of animatronic in Freddy Fazbear's Mega Pizzaplex. While animatronics have always been more robotic than real-life animatronics, the Glamrocks take this to a whole new extreme with thick metal endoskeletons and plated exteriors designed for the animatronics to walk around and engage with guests and perform on stage with more elaborate choreography. They also have assumedly state-of-the-art processing systems and run on batteries that must be recharged through stations littered throughout the Pizzaplex. Glamrock Freddy is the animatronic we get most up close and personal with, as he is an ally to the player, even allowing them to climb inside and pilot him when needing to cross the Pizzaplex without getting caught. This being allowed by Glamrock Freddy's hollowed-out stomach hatch. While this is eerily similar to Funtime Freddy's stomach hatch, Glamrock Freddy assures us that it is for carrying birthday cakes and piñatas. And it might be easy to believe Glamrock Freddy, who is quite a deviation from the Freddys before him. Glamrock Freddy is bursting with personality, and that personality is warm and friendly, accommodating, willing to bend the rules to help someone in need, but still sometimes sticking to them. For example, Freddy is willing to help hide Gregory, the child character we play as, from the security officer and the malfunctioning Glamrocks to help keep him safe, even though it is against the rules. But he will not accompany him into Phaser Blast because it would be cheating for them to play together.
They are all accessible to staff, with high enough clearance, of course. Guests are never allowed down here, but, yours is a special situation. Shame on you, Gregory. We cannot enter together. That would be cheating. I am programmed not to cheat.
Freddy is full of charm and is very sweet and supportive.
Way to go, superstar! I knew you could do it.
He also has his goofier moments.
That is a fountain. A fountain is a decorative reservoir used for discharging water.
And it should be noted that Freddy is just the slightest bit naive, just a little bit ditzy, a little too trusting. He's a himbo. There, we all know it. It's not the most professional or eloquent word, but that's pretty much him dead on. Freddy is a good-natured Papa Bear who is also a himbo.
I must stay here. I wish I could join you, but after tonight's stage incident, I am not allowed to perform. When I step onto the West Arcade dance floor, I cannot stop myself. It is a programming bug.
We see all of these traits reflected in his relationships with other characters. Freddy is respectful of the security officer until she tethers him to a chair and yanks his head off, after which he assumedly is more wary of her. In the Vanny endings, Vanny commands the staff bot to disassemble Freddy, which they do. He then tells Gregory to turn them against Vanny, which ends up killing her. However, if Gregory actually frees Vanny instead, Freddy encourages him to approach the now freed Vanny, and the three have a peaceful moment together. This seems to suggest that Freddy may be more forgiving, and that the one command to turn them on Vanny might have been set out of anger, but might have also been like a last-ditch effort to protect Gregory. Indeed, Gregory and Freddy develop a bond throughout the beginning of the game until the story stops about the halfway mark and then shows up in time for the endings. At first, Gregory is wary of Freddy, who seems initially confused at the sudden acquiring of a child, before taking him under his wing and into his stomach hatch as he leads him through the Pizzaplex. Initially, Freddy is unaware of the danger, but as the game continues, he sees more of what's going on and steps in more to protect Gregory from his friends. There's also some cut dialogue that suggests that Freddy would have initially not believed Gregory about seeing Vanny, questioning him about her more than once, before eventually believing him, likely due to seeing her hiding spot above Phaser Blast. While we don't get too much of their relationship during the middle chunk of the game, the endings show Freddy attempting to escape the Pizzaplex with him, even when initially he says he can't, such as in the van ending when Freddy shuts down until Gregory is able to jumpstart him with a car battery, where they share a tender hug. There's other moments affirming their bonds, such as in the disassembled Vanny ending, where as the broken Freddy is fading, he reaches up to ruffle Gregory's hair and calls him his superstar. While a large portion of their shared dialogue is missing from the game, you can still see their bond in some of the cut dialogue. Here's an exchange that didn't make it in the security breach.
Gregory, check out these shirts. Which one do you like best,
I don't know. That one, I guess.
Oh.
Another character who Freddy had a close relationship with was Glamrock Bonnie. We know very little about what happened to Glamrock Bonnie, simply coming in after the fact, but we can tell from Freddy's few lines on him that he is still actively grieving his loss. I think the line that plays when you approach Bonnie's stage with Freddy speaks for itself.
I do not come up here anymore. I miss him.
So all in all, Freddy seems like a pretty swell guy, right? Well, he is, but there's a few inconsistencies with Freddy's behavior throughout the game that might suggest something more sinister going on. But I also believe it could be a result of the mini-cuts. Such as, there is a moment when Freddy unexplainably ends up in Roxy Raceway's construction site and claims he missed a recharge. Not only is it weird that he would have missed a recharge since the timing doesn't add up right, but why is he over here? Weirder still, the unable to stand Freddy later gets up to help Gregory, and when he asks how he got up, Freddy gives an extremely dodgy answer. Not a, "I heard your call and was filled with energy. I have never felt like this before, but I had to protect you." It's a, "Well, I guess I must have had my second wind."
Consider it a second wind.
Yeah, suspicious. Another big inconsistency is one so huge and everyone seems to miss it. So Freddy is apparently oblivious to Gregory decommissioning his friends, right? However, after taking out Chica or Monty and upgrading Freddy, it is Freddy who instructs Gregory to use this upgrade to break into Roxy Raceway and find a way to deal with Roxy.
Now that I have been upgraded, I should be able to access the Roxy Raceway. I have not been there for a very long time, but perhaps you can find some clues on how to deal with Roxy while you are there. Gregory, I do not mean to be intrusive, but I read that message that you found in the security office. There may be a chance to stop Monty from hunting you.
This is extremely suspicious, especially since Roxy Raceway is also where the elevator to the sinkhole is hiding. Indeed, in the ending with the sinkhole and burn trap, Freddy says a few things such as, "She brought us here. I cleared the way. I am not me," which seems to suggest something, that Freddy was controlled at some point and puppeteered into doing something, at least clearing the way, but the whole segment is so unfinished that it's pretty much impossible to put together the whole picture of what Freddy's talking about. Though it does confirm that him being controlled was an element. Here are a few other suspicious lines.
Gregory, I am so glad you are here and alive. They are not capable of hurting a guest. None of us are. I piled up some boxes so you could hop over the construction fence and find me. There you are. I was so worried. I waited and waited for you. I missed the hourly recharge and have been trying to get down to parts and service. I think something is wrong. I piled up some boxes so you could hop over the construction fence and...
I think it's clear from all of these that there might have been another plan for Freddy. But the biggest indication of such was a major cutscene and character. Shattered Freddy. From audio lines and models and the like, we know that Freddy was supposed to be cornered by his friends, the other Glamrocks, and torn apart. He yells for Gregory to run, and then is shattered. Here is an audio recreation of Freddy's shattering, taking cut lines and such.
Leave him alone!
Gregory, run!
Do not look back! Do not watch! Chica, Roxy, Monty, do not listen! Resist her! Please! You do not want to do this!
Disassemble Freddy.
No! Stop! No! Please!
Freddy! No!
But that is not the end of Freddy, as he becomes fully possessed by the infection coursing through the Glamrocks and starts to hunt Gregory as well, as seen in his voice lines.
Superstar, where are you? Where are you going? Come back. I thought we were friends. Why do you hide? Gregory.
So my belief is this. Those inconsistencies in Freddy's character weren't to show that Freddy was secretly evil, but to foreshadow that he is somewhat possessed, that someone else is still controlling him at times, and once he's shattered, that force fully takes over. I've mentioned this before, but the shattered animatronics designs betray their greatest weakness. Chica is at the mercy of her hunger, and because of that, she has a big gaping hole in her mouth, unable to eat or speak. Monty's upgrades used to be his legs before being changed to his claws in the final game, but you can still see the effect on his shattered design. Without his legs, he can't pounce, jump, or chase like he once did, his anger and violent temperament knocking him down a peg. Then there's Roxy, who's obsessed with her image, with looking and being the best, and when she loses her upgrades from her eyes, she now not only looks horrifying, but she can no longer see herself. Her image, the most important feature in her eyes, is now unknown to her. Freddy's weak spot is his heart. He wants to help, he is of good nature. So when he is shattered, his chest is gutted. The safe spot for Gregory is now gone, along with Freddy's friendly persona. Now the emphasis on Shattered Freddy is because he seems to be returning in Ruin, the DLC of Security Breach. Or at least Glamrock Freddy is returning in Ruin in a busted state, but all we can see is his legs. So we don't know which ending this is after. If this is after one of the endings where Freddy is broken, after the one where Gregory fixes and takes Freddy's head with him, or if there's an alternative. All we know is from the fact that he's moving, some part of Freddy will be returning very soon. The final iteration of Freddy might just be a merch design, but here's Clown Freddy. He's part of a well-detailed, cartoonish-looking clown and balloon animatronic line. So far they haven't been used for anything, but they might in the future. Though beyond that, we know Freddy will return in another animatronic form in the future, though whether he'll be friend or foe, whether he'll be the focus or just one in the crowd, whether it'll be one bear or many, we won't know until we get there. Now let's discuss the movie. It's not out yet. Now let's discuss the books. In The Silver Eyes, Freddy and his band are abandoned at Freddy's in an unopened mall when the main character, Charlie, and her friends arrive. At the command of the purple guy, i.e. William Afton, i.e. Dave, they hunt the group of teens down until later realizing the truth and turning on Dave. They end the story dragging William off as he's suffering from a springlock failure. In The Twisted Ones, Freddy reappears alongside his bandmates sitting in the local police chief's basement before waking up to fight the baddies, the Twisted Ones. Then they walk away and they're gone. The band's lack of importance in the story is largely due to the introduction of the real villains, the Twisted Ones, animatronics who use illusion technology to look like monsters. Twisted Freddy being the most important of the group, as not only does he kidnap Charlie at one point, but he later kills her, and that is kills in huge quotations. Freddy kind of appears in the fourth closet. So in the fourth closet, Afton has melted the animatronics down into a mass of wires and metal, one that sounds similar to either Molten Freddy or the Blob. In the graphic novel, it looks like this. Yeah, the gang's all here. Golden Freddy also appears in the trilogy. There he is possessed by Charlie and her friend's childhood friend Michael Brooks, and he is part of the reason the animatronics realize that Afton is not who he seems. He briefly appears in The Twisted Ones to take the band away after the confrontation as well. His soul appears with the others in the fourth closet, but his physical body, Golden Freddy himself, does not appear. Funtime Freddy appears in the fourth closet sans Bonbon. He, if I recall right, runs headfirst into a merry-go-round and really bangs himself up. That's kind of really the only exciting thing about him. Sure, he chases the protagonists around a bit, but he's not a real big deal. With the trilogy over, let's move on to the short stories. Freddy appears in a lot of Fazbear Fright stories for short cameos, so I'm going to melt this down to just the larger roles so I don't spend all day listing the amount of times Faz comes up. Firstly, Lonely Freddy is featured in a story of the same name. Lonely Freddys are small bear animatronics built somehow with the capabilities of pulling out the souls of children, trapping them, and replacing them with their own, assumedly artificial soul. How this works is never explained, and considering the whole process is done by Lonely Freddy flashing his eyes, I'm surprised it succeeds in anything beyond giving the kids seizures. In the titular story, an angry and likely neglected teenager ruins his favored younger sister's birthday party and runs off into the back rooms of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. There he runs into the small Freddy known as Lonely Freddy. When he turns it on, it pulls him into a hypnotic trance with flashing lights. Suddenly they switch bodies, with the soul inside Lonely Freddy running off to live his life while a teen stumbles around the pizzeria before being thrown into a dumpster with a bunch of other possessed Lonely Freddys. The end. The next example of Freddy is in Tag-Along Freddy. A single father with a dead wife, an almost constantly reoccurring theme in the series, is stressed out and gets a Tag-Along Freddy doll that he can use to help monitor his young son. One day, the son goes missing, and Tag-Along Freddy is left behind. Tag-Along Freddy suggests he goes to the local site where everyone takes their lives. The Cliffs. Yes, killing oneself is also a very prominent theme in these children's books. He eventually goes to the cliffs and finds his son trapped in a hole. The end. Count the Ways is a story that features not Freddy, but Funtime Freddy. I've mentioned it before, so I'll be brief here. Angsty teenage girl who's been neglected and abandoned by her parents climbs into an oversized Funtime Freddy. He mentally tortures her for a few pages while she thinks back to how miserable her life is, and then he kills her. The end. Fun fact though, so a few of the other Fazbear Frights books throw in lines from the games, such as in Room for One More, where the mini-arenas are given lines from both Bonnet and Lefty. However, this is the first case where a line from the book is then used in the games, as in the case of this line that shows up in Fnaf AR.
There's nothing I want from you except your life.
Though, like I said, Funtime Freddy was in creation hiatus for a long time, being teased since the beginning but not introduced until the end of the game's run cycle. So it is possible that maybe this was a reused line from the games, i.e. the books found out about the game lines before we did, but I don't see how that could have happened. Pizza Kit has a Freddy cameo that's a little bigger. That is, the main character thinks she killed her friend at Freddy's Pizza Factory. Yeah, that exists. And starts having nightmares. One of which is Freddy dumping bodies in the sauce, which is pretty much on brand with Freddy's. Finally, we have You're the Band, a cut FNAF story from the lineup that was released as a bonus book. Ironically, it's the story that feels the most traditionally FNAF. A mother gifts her Freddy-loving son an authentic Freddy mask, though afterwards he starts acting strange, like a completely different person. To keep a long story short, she starts getting stalked by Mike. Yeah, the Mike. And eventually the boy runs off to Freddy's where they discover that he is being possessed by none other than Freddy himself through the mask. The puppet drops through the ceiling for a hot second. The mother returns the mask and the boy is freed. They leave and Mike brings them up to speed on the way home, and the story ends on a happy note with FNAF's first decent non-dead mother. The end. So that pretty much rounds out Fazbear Frights. Now on to the follow-up series, Tales of the Pizzaplex. Glamrock Freddy is only really seen once in Tales of the Pizzaplex. Sure, he is sparsely mentioned, but the closest thing he gets to a feature is one of the books where they're discussing the animatronics acting out a character. Freddy tries to steal a toy from a child and then walks into the corner and cries, a very bizarre and childish characteristic. Part of me wonders if this fussy Freddy was supposed to be a nod to the Material Girl Freddy meme, but I've got no evidence. Now, the reason for this character change is because of the Elvis-themed tiger who lives inside of the tree that controls all the animatronics, and a hive mind has caught the bunny who flew. Likely because the man who was Henry in everything but name built an endoskeleton and beat it up, and it didn't take it so well. Yes, everything I just said is in the books. And how I explained it is how it feels. Alas, this is the ending of Freddy's journey. I really have to start finding a better way to end these. While the star of the show, Freddy Fazbear, has shined bright and burned low between his many roles. standing out more in some compared to the others. Yet still, he holds his place as the titular character well enough to support the weight of having his name over the door. We will surely see plenty more of the face of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza soon, but for now, thanks for watching.